All right. Hello, hello. Yep, it's been a while, but we're back and let's continue with Fallen Hero Rebirth. This is the last chapter last time, where we got introduced. Uh, the first part of our plan, the nanivores, and nanomachine stuff, introduced the fact that we have another body, like spare body, kind of a spare body kind of thing, all that good stuff. And now it is time to continue on. Part 2 of our evil plan. 2 weeks later. You never thought it would come to this. When you drafted your plans, this part was always the bit you glossed over, ignored in the hope that it might somehow resolve itself once you got there. Working up the guts to possess one of the Rangers and walking into the Lion's Den to steal one of their darkest secrets was easy compared to what you are about to do now. This goes against every single rule you've set for yourself to stay safe. In fact, you don't think you have done anything this stupid since the heartbreak incident. Exactly what you do not need to be thinking about right now. The phone feels like a dead weight in your hands. It's stolen, of course, hijacked along with the body you're wearing. The body belongs to a truck driver who moonlights for one of the less legit freight companies in town, but it could have been anyone who had a phone with a cash card that wasn't tied to some form of personal ID. It just couldn't be you. They would know. Of that, you are sure. Time to give them a call. After a moment of hesitation, you punched in the number with surprisingly steady fingers. Even after all this time, you know it by heart. Yes, the voice at the other end is cool, polite, and familiar, and your hand starts shaking despite your attempts to stay calm. Hells, why couldn't it have been a stranger? You you force yourself to swallow, the nervous cracks threatening to break your voice into shrill splinters. You can find Psychopather in Warehouse 34B down at the southern docks. It's not your voice. There's no way they could know. Who are you and how did you get this number? There is a reactive flinch from you as you hear the familiar tone harden, but it's on the other side of a phone, and you are beyond reach. Never mind that. You try to sound bland and matter of fact. This is being recorded. You need to leave no clues. The important thing is that he won't be expecting you. Wait, what? You hang up in the middle of the sentence, your thumb making the decision for you. You can't. You just can't. It will have to be enough. Your hand is shaking and your thumb still pressed hard against the screen. You don't want to remember this, especially not now. Not right now. It's in the past, water under the bridge and all that. You don't want to remember. The problem with things like this is that the more you think about not thinking about it, the more it comes crawling back to haunt you. Maybe you shouldn't have done this. Maybe you should have played it safe. But it's too late now. Forcing your hand to unclench, you drop the phone to the ground, crunching it under your heel before you kick the remains over the side of the pier into the water below. The call wouldn't have lasted long enough for them to trace. At least, you hope that's still the case. Taking one final deep breath of the damp harbor air, you leave your host with a memory of dropping the phone into the water, a moment of fumbling inattention leading to loss and frustration. By then, you were already busy throwing up elsewhere, back in your own body. The bottle of water is enough to rinse the taste of vomit out of your mouth, but your hands are still shaking as you curl up and wait. It would have to be them. Not many others could hope to bring down a monster like Psychopath. Sure, you fought him back when you ran with the Rangers, but nearly a decade has passed since then, and he has not been idle. If you tried the stunt today that you did last time with Ortega, you both would be dead. Luckily, you were not what you were either, otherwise you would have never stooped to this, to using them. Them. In a world filled with enhanced people, some things are still more taboo than others. Be they boosts or mods, all the enhanced are human at the core, no matter how wildly they have deviated from their origins. Not so the regions. Like robotic constructs, regions are created, not born. They are subject to none of the rights of a proper human being. Like stem cell clones, they are supposedly mindless, just a body to strip for parts with no soul to fill it. Human ingenuity might have enabled the Genitech Corporation to reconstruct humanoid beings from the ground up, but give them a mind, much less a soul, that is impossible. Circumventing this limitation, the regions that the Special Directive employ as weapons are outfitted with artificial minds, advanced AI that can mimic the acts of people, but aren't truly alive. Or so the story goes. The regions are put in distinctive uniforms, their faces and bodies covered with bright tattoos marking them for the tools they are. These warning signs are there to make people keep their distance, as the powers involved are often much more dangerous than what normal boosts could wield and survive. They also make it impossible to confuse regions with a normal human, especially when combined with their distinctive blue-gray skin. Always a controversial presence, most of the regions are used in the wars abroad, but several teams always remain on US soil, ready to be put to use should the special directive require it. Like now, because you called them in. Your hands are still shaking, shivering a little. You put them in your armpits, try to warm them up as you wait. You wish you could let your mind go blank and settle into your usual pattern, usual patient routine. Not this time, though. Right now, your mind just keeps churning, a hornet's nest of anxiety. Knows that voice? Too many bad memories? This plan has too many moving parts for my liking. Bringing the special directive risks shining the spotlight on me. I wish Ortega was here. While it's tempting to have my guy be like, "Oh, I wish Ortega was here." No, we're not around. We're gonna be a little smarter for now. Gotta be at least careful. There's too many moving parts for my liking, because it's a pretty complicated plan. You know all too well that the simpler the plan, the more chance it has to succeed. The main problem here is that you couldn't think of a simpler plan to get what you need from Psychopath. He would never willingly part with his most prized possession, nor could you just mentally manipulate him into giving it up. You had a brief brush with that infested mind as you were researching options, and dismissed it as far too dangerous. There is a reason you call him the old monster. His mind is so twisted by paranoia and spite that if you went in there, you wouldn't come out the same person, if you came out again at all. Madness is dangerous that way. It seeps in and takes hold so seductively that you could never really be sure whether you have been compromised or not, even if you tried your best to keep your own self secure. You learned that the hard way. 7 years ago. Heartbreak incident came from the north, a mysterious sequence of weird accidents, strange suicides, and mass panic. When mapped out, the incidents formed an uneven line, steadily heading south. A mass pileups of cars on the freeway brought in the authorities, who were shocked to discover people crashing their vehicles into each other, apparently at random. traffic chopper at the scene caught the mayhem, then made headlines of its own as it crashed down into the twisted wrecks below. Still, people did not sit up and take notice until the first cop shot himself on live television. By that time, it had stopped moving, taking root in the northern suburbs of Los Diablos. It had left a no-go zone where anyone who entered slowly went mad and tried to kill themselves. At first, the exclusion zone had been a single apartment building, but by the time the Rangers had been called in, it was half a block and more. Whatever was in there growing stronger, the lethal disquiet spread further and further. With the threat affecting people's minds, of course, the Rangers had uh, with the threat affecting people's minds, of course, the Rangers had contacted you. Don't stand so close. You're giving me a headache. You rub your forehead a bit, giving Sergeant Steele a glare. The man in the massive armor doesn't deign to answer. It is no secret that Steele does not like you. You are not one of the Rangers, even if you have worked with them often enough. Not only that, you are a master vigilante with a secret identity, and he has a hard time understanding why a hero would need such secrecy. You aren't about to illuminate him either. Give him a break, Sidestep. He's here to keep us safe. Anathema shoots you a smile. They might not exactly be your friend, but unlike Steel, Anathema likes you. You've always felt a little closer to Anathema than to most of the other heroes, but there aren't that many that share some of your experiences. The culture is a lot more open out west, but it's still not exactly common to be non-binary and open about it. Sure, Windfall is, but you've never worked together with them, and you had your suspicions about Redshift, but they're so private it's hard to be sure. Okay, coming from us, that does say something. It's also hard to dislike Anathema, who is short, chubby, and bubbly, and as invulnerable as they come. Safe, you say, starting to protest that nobody here is even remotely safe. A clap on the shoulder from Ortega makes you bite back your comment. He has returned from his talk with the officers in charge, looking as edgy and worried as you've ever seen him. Sorry about your head, but we don't have a choice here. The threat's probably telepathic in nature, and Steel's armor is the only thing that can power the mobile dampeners. There is no room for an argument in his word, and honestly, you were only making one because you were nervous. Unless someone wants to drive a truck up the stairs, Anathema said, with another smile in Ortega's direction. That was a bike, and I was going downstairs. A completely different situation. Ortega returned their smile. The gravity of the situation diffused somewhat. Do we have permission to get this show on the road then, Marshall? Oh, do we have permission to get the show on the road then, Marshall? Steele doesn't smile. He rarely does. Instead, he fixes Ortega with a hard stare. I forgot for a second that Ortega used to be the Marshal, and now it's Steele. Um, yeah, we do. The evacuation of the surrounding blocks is continuing, and Ortega keeps talking, but you've stopped listening. Your head is throbbing with a low-level toothache. Ortega is right about this thing being telepathic in nature. You can feel the pressure against your shields. Even though you complain about Steel being around, that annoyance is at least a known thing. Telepathic dampeners might hurt, but what is in there hurts worse. You are not the only one feeling it either. There's an officer over at the cordon who keeps looking towards the building, keeps touching his face as if he was trying to pull something off his skin. But it's only when his hand starts reaching for his holster that you realize he's about to lose it. Sam before he can pull the trigger, but safe and sorry, I punch him out. And the team is closer. Yell at them to make them notice what's happening. Well, it's not like we're the most physically adept, so you might as well tell the invulnerable person. Sammy, behind you! You cry. Your cry makes them turn around, immediately spotting the glazed look on the man's face. Not on my watch, buddy. And the Thema reaches out to yank his weapon away, then the sudden move makes the gun go off in their face. The bullet flattens against their skin, making them flinch and curse angrily before turning it to slag in their hand. Their acid secretions send up a cloud of bitter smoke. Hell yeah. Alright, that's it. Ortega raised his voice so that everyone can turn around. Show's over. The radius is expanding. Everyone get the hell out of here. The officers withdraw quickly enough, leaving the four of you on the wrong side of the cordon. You don't think you're the only one feeling the pressure. After all of you are crowding a little closer together. So, no time to lose, I suppose. Ortega straightens a little, looking over at the distant apartment building. There are lights on in there, but you haven't seen any sign of movement since you got here. I still think we should bring the whole team in. Anathema's rubbing their hand a little, looking uncharacteristically disturbed. Whatever this thing is, it gets inside your head. That means we are the ones most suited to deal with it. Ortega grimaces. He doesn't look too eager either. It's my call. It was, but you are agreeing with it. Steel's armor has been fitted with telepathic dampeners, and it should protect him along with the rest of you. Anathema is invulnerable to damage, so even if they should get separated from Steel, they should be alright. And Ortega has an ace up his sleeve that most people don't know about. He is an epileptic, and like most epileptics, he is immune to telepathy. It has something to do with the electrical storms in the brain that cause the seizures. There's enough static there to make it nearly impossible to read his mind, or, in this case, be influenced from the outside. Even standing next to him, you need to focus to realize that there is a man standing there at all. Honestly, that's one of the reasons you like teaming up with him. You can relax your guard and not risk picking up unwanted thoughts. What are we waiting for then? You hate waiting. You always did. I still wish you'd sit this one out, Sidestep. Ortega and you had an argument about this earlier. He wasn't sure your telepathic shields were up for the job. Nothing infuriates you quite as much as people trying to tell you they know what's best for you, but since he's looking for an answer, you have one for him. People are in danger, and I can handle it. I'm curious about what it says. No, you need my help. I mean, I'm playing this as like Ortega's one of the very, very few positive influences in our lives, so yeah, need my help. You think I plan on letting you go in there alone? You're being an even bigger idiot than usual. You cross your arms, giving Ortega a hard look. You need a telepath in there. We don't need you, Sergeant supplies before Anathema shushes him. I'm glad you're not the one in charge of this team then, right? You keep your gaze fixed on Ortega. Fine, you win. Let's get moving. You get one final hard look from Ortega before he turns around and starts walking towards the building. The rest of you in tow. It's a familiar routine. By now you are quite used to working together. Ortega takes point with Steel while you bring up the rear with Anathema. That keeps both Steel and the dampeners as far away from you as possible, so everyone wins. Not everyone. Not the people who lived here. You shiver a bit as you approach the building. There are bodies littering the ground, limp, dark piles at the edge of your vision. There is something disconcerting about a dead body. Your mind identifies them as human, and your thoughts reach out, only to touch nothing. Look away, don't need to see more bodies. Take a closer look, there might be clues. Take a closer look. Might be clues. We are a little curious. You don't have to veer from the path to take a closer look, as you literally have to step over some of them to get to the door of the building. The cause of death seems obvious enough. Falling. Looking at the damage, you gather they must have jumped from the upper floors. A quick glance upwards shows that there are windows open, gaping open, some of them broken, some opened? You would have thought that people would have thrown themselves through the opening in a blind panic. thought of someone deliberately opening the window before jumping to their death sends a shiver down your spine. Who could bring themselves to do that? These people, apparently, this morning they were living, breathing souls with hopes and dreams. Now they look like twisted dolls on the ground, wrong angles, strangely positioned. Some look almost unhurt, while others are flattened into grotesque shapes, their innards pushed out through any available body opening. You can see that one of the women has red claw marks on her face. Did she make them herself? Manicured nails tearing into her soft flesh. Did that old man gouge out his own eyes? What did he see? You don't know, but the pressure against your shields is increasing, so you look away. Don't need to add more nightmare fodder. Keep your eyes open for any signs of life, Ortega cautions as he keeps scanning the bodies. Gah, this whole place stinks. Anathema grimaces, narrowing his eyes and yanking at the front door with no result. This is what death smells like. Seal is keeping an eye on the surroundings, gun at the ready. You're such a cheerful man, you know? Anathema places their palm against the locked door, secreting corrosive acid that eats through the metal with little effort. Their hand is quickly yanked back and shaken a little, sending green drops flying. Watch it, you snap. One of the drops had nearly hit you. It's now eating a hole in the sidewalk. We can't all be invulnerable. You should know well enough to stand back then, Anathema says with a laugh, rubbing their hand a little. This is dangerous business. Though dressed in their standard ranger blue-toned skin suit, their arms and legs are bare. The protection is unnecessary, and there's always the risk of acid damage. They may look strangely vulnerable with their pale, heavily freckled skin and bare feet, but you know that they can't feel a thing. You've seen bullets bounce off that seemingly fragile form. Ortega is the first one inside, as always, securing the area before the rest of you follow. It doesn't look very threatening, just numbered apartment doors, a stairway leading up, a pair of closed elevator doors. The smell is a lot worse in here, and you avoid looking at the names of the residents. Most of them, most likely, they are all dead already. Elevator looks stuck, and Athema presses the button repeatedly with a faint frown on their face. But whatever's doing this to the dog. Should we knock on the doors and see if anyone's alive? I had a bad feeling about this. I mean, we're walking into a fucking telepathic suicide exclusion zone. Bad feeling is quite the understatement. And I doubt anyone this close is alive. So yeah, but whatever's doing this is at the top. Bet whatever's doing this is at the top. You can't be sure, but the pressure feels like it's coming from above. And isn't that how these things work? You always find the villain in the basement or the penthouse, never in the middle. I knew it. Seal is covering the stairs, his short-range plasma cannon swinging back and forth. I hate stairs. Looks like we've got some ways to go then. Anathema gives the elevator button one final push. The stairs it is. Ortega shrugs a little as he looks up. Sorry about that, Steel. Fine, let's get this over with. Steel, Steel starts heading up the stairs, one ponderous step at a time. You can see the railing bend a little, with a torturous squeak as he brushes against it. His armor is not the most agile of contraptions, and is not meant to climb stairs. Ortega hesitates a moment before he follows, keeping a safe distance. Let's wait a moment, you joke under your breath to Anathema. That way, if he plummets into the cellar, we won't be joining him. Normally, a joke like that would have gotten a laugh out of Anathema, but it seems that the gravity of the situation is getting even to them. Not that you can blame them. You don't want to remember. Present day. You drag yourself back to reality, back from the stairs and the truth that lurks up there. Sidestep is dead. You are not. Instead, you are cold, cramped, and nervous, wishing you could stretch your legs, but you can't risk moving and getting spotted. So instead, you busy yourself going over your equipment. Always be prepared. That's your motto. And while you don't have access to everything you had back when you were sidestep, you've managed to improvise a kit that hopefully will get you there. Will get will help you get through this. A tranquilizer gun is a poor replacement for your old MAG caster, but it's quiet and fast. A lightweight protective vest is no plasteel carapace, but the matte black skin suit will help keep you hidden. With your face covered, you are nothing but a shadow in the dark. A pair of night vision goggles means you don't have to rely on telepathy or outside light sources to get around. With some other useful trinkets in case of emergencies, you are as ready as you'll ever be. You wish you had another option besides calling them, but you don't. If the circumstances had been different, you would have called in the Rangers, but you had to be sure whoever you got could get the job done. With your recent possession of Lady Argent, plus Heddle's injuries, you imagine they would not be at their best, and you can't allow any chance of failure, no chance of him getting away. You needed the special directive. Now all you have to do is wait. Unfortunately, waiting also means time for thinking, something you have tried so hard to avoid. There is that staircase in your memories, the intense physical memory of walking upstairs, carefully, step by step, surrounded by the stench of death. No, you are not there. You are here, the cold and misty darkness of the docks, curled up in your hidey hole, nowhere else. Hidden myself as close to the target as dare, waiting for them at a distance, safer that way. Considering I'm not a fighter or anything like that, distance is probably the way for it. And so you wait. Predictably, dark falls before they make their move. Your telepathic powers means you don't have to be anywhere near the scene right now. Oh, the operatives' minds are protected, but you've moved quite a bit beyond what they are prepared for. You can feel them in the night, little thought voids moving closer, surrounding the buildings. You don't even need to see this because you know how it will play out by heart. How big a team will they send? The standard loadout is 5 operatives, but will Psychopath warrant more? Probably not. Hopefully not. Most likely 3 MBOs, main battle operatives, the mainstay of the special directive, the kind of regens with enough power to go head to head with the strongest enhanced. Then 2 SEOs, secondary control operatives, for sentry duty and crowd control. They are made to deal with non-enhanced opponents, henchmen and civilian, making sure the MBOs won't be distracted from their jobs. First, they will get into position, and this is why you have situated yourself right outside their usual perimeter. Then somebody will strike the first blow to breach the building, somebody with flashy, visible powers to draw attention. And here we go. The explosion sears the night, green flames lapping the sky, turning the lenses in your goggles black to save your vision. Good old Dr. Mortem. If he will do as well on your main project, he deserves a bonus. The lens adjusts back, the world once again speckled green and black as you hear gunfire. Henchmen, probably. It was rumored that Psychopath had hired the wolf pack. It looks like that was right on the money. Good. That should make things even more chaotic. Oh, he hasn't realized. We haven't realized yet. They're not going to be too pleased, based the way I play. The time for you to make your move. You banish thoughts of capture and failure as you carefully move towards the warehouse. Being spotted is not an issue yet because you are coming from the wrong direction. And even through the shields, you can feel their positions. 4 of them are inside. A 5th keeps watch from a low rooftop, most likely an SCO with hypersensors on alert for escapees or reinforcements. That could be an issue. A sentry could alert the others to your presence, or worse, decide to try and stop you in person. Since he is keeping that kind of distance, you imagine he's probably armed with some sort of sniper rifle, as well as hypersensors. A bullet in the back can be dodged, but only if you can pick up his intention to fire in time. Could you do that through the dampeners he's wearing? Maybe. Maybe not. Or maybe he'll just leave you alone, deciding that revealing his position is not worth eliminating a single, lightly armored henchman. Should you take him out before he notices you? Normally, you wouldn't even consider dealing directly with one of them, but a sentry SCO should be within your capabilities. Deal with him first. That's the only way to be sure, or he probably won't risk his position to attack a lone henchman. Hmm. It's one of those things, right? Because this feels like the sort of thing that's gonna bite me in the ass later. So I might as well try to take care of this when I have relative control of the situation. The sentry will have to go first. You can't afford the risk of being spotted. Closing your eyes for a moment, you tentatively reach out to try to find a weak point, running feather-like telepathic fingers over his aura. The core of his mind is protected, as is the standard for a special detective operative, but the drawback of having senses honed to perceive the slightest shift in your surroundings is that a battle like this hurts. You can sense his reaction to the explosions, to the bright flashes of plasma and fire, to the dull thunder of. You have no idea what power that is. Something deep enough in the audible range to make your teeth ache. Now, what to do? His thoughts are shielded, but he's still leaking sensory input. You could use that to distract him, enough for you to get in range to fire one of your tranquilizer darts. Or you could attempt to overload his senses with one strong mental attack, leaving him crippled long enough for you to get inside. Subtle distraction or forceful attack. Oh, we've been more subtle and sneaky this whole time, so I think it fits. Subtle distraction. If your teeth ache, his must ache more. You grab hold of that sensation, throwing yourself against the unnatural blankness that surrounds him. You don't dare to try a full possession, but you can heighten his discomfort, keeping his attention focused on one spot long enough for you to sneak up from behind, shooting him in the back. It's a struggle to keep him ignorant of the pain and the sedative coursing through his system, but eventually his mind muddles and he relaxes in your arms. Sleep. Good. You reach out, pull out the dart, pocketing it. No evidence. You won't have long. He'll wake up soon enough, hopefully never knowing he was out. You don't want to hurt him. After all, if things were different, you could be in his shoes. Oh, I didn't notice that. You duck safely into the shadows of the warehouse. Inside, the sounds of battle are intensifying. Flashes of greenish light erupting through the massive hole in the wall, keeping your head low and you weigh your options. Psychopath is giving them a good fight, but you dare to scan if his thoughts are fury red, but there is no trace of worry yet. He's still holding his ground. The Wolfpack henchmen are a different story. There's a panicked feeling to their thoughts. Most of them are still calm, but the worry is spreading too. Worry is spreading. Some of them thinking of running. Some of them. Wait. You frown a little, trying to block out the din of battle. There. You were right. Bo is here. He's not doing too well. And the other shoe drops. I also make sure he's alright. Bo might come in handy. I'll give him a hand. Stay focused on the goal. Can't allow myself to get distracted. Yeah. So you might consider maybe a friend, sort of. So yeah, make sure he's alright. Bo has no idea what he's gotten himself into. You have to give him a hand. No, you shouldn't let yourself get distracted, but there's a little bit of you that nearly panics at the thought of Bo running afoul of the special directive. That's an odd enough reaction that it gives you pause. I like Bo. Don't want to lose him. Don't want to touch my things, and Bo is fine. Some of those things where it's like, yeah, colder person would probably pick something along these lines, yeah. But I like Bo. It's rare that you like Bo. It's rare that you feel comfortable enough to meet people twice. He's become a reliable and useful fixture in your life. Time to get going. Luckily Bo is nowhere near Psychopathy and the main fight of the moment. Keeping your head low, you sprint deeper into the warehouse. Cascade the explosions cascade black shadows over the ground, the maze of boxes, giving you more than enough cover as you run. You can feel panicked little screams light up and disappear. Bo is still conscious, but there's something else back there, clearing out possible reinforcements. One of the special directive. You're not sure what class. It's hard to make out details through the shielded minds back there. But since they are not going for a psychopath, and you haven't seen any flashy displays of power, it's probably one of the standard SEOs. That means strength and speed in various combinations, and probably armor as well. Perhaps some sort of natural projectile attack, or a quiet needle gun, an expert killer. The thought hits you right in the gut as you dodge behind a crate, as machine guns open fire with a cacophony of noise. Apparently, the wolf pack has noticed what's going on and is trying to take down whatever it is that's attacking them. They won't stand a chance. Unless I help them, lead them. Good, that gives me cover. I'll grab Bo and get him to safety. It's too risky to abort and let Bo fend for himself. Okay, I guess I'll say Rebel doing this, right? Help them, lead them is a fun try, and it's one of those things where like it is possible to do, if a little difficult. I know I have done it before, but I like just grab Bro and get him to safety because it's like while we like our, while we're a little nicer than we realistically should be, you know, want to protect Bo, we don't really care. Like I don't know, we're still a villain. We're still not the best people, so it's not like hey, like I saved the person that is almost my friend. I don't need like I don't bother with the rest of the wolf pack. Seems like a fair reaction, in my opinion. You know, I'm gonna say with the wolf pack putting up this much of a fight, you have to be careful. It would be easy to get hit by a stray bullet. Hopefully, they are making enough of a ruckus to give you cover as you sneak in and get Bo out of here. As long as you move fast. Closing your eyes for a brief and vulnerable moment, you map out the presence of all the wolf pack in your head. The thought void of the center is harder to pinpoint, but you can judge where the region should be from the reactions of the others. Good. You can do this. Breaking into a run, you sprint past a confused wolf pack and dive into a quick roll to escape a stray burst of fire. You skid behind the crates to where Bo's been hiding, just in time to tackle him backwards as the crate explodes, sending splinters everywhere. There's no time to be gentle. You give his mind a push to stay silent and compliant, dragging him further back as the screams start in earnest. The SCO must have used the explosion to rush the Wolfpack's position. You can feel them panic and run. Pressing Bo against the ground, you stay still until you feel that the danger is past and the operative pursues elsewhere. Not a moment too late. What? Bo spits out the word, his frustration breaking through your compulsion of his mind. Not now. Move or be dead. You drag him by the hand towards the quiet side, pushing him down with you being a top-covered loader. Who are you? Bo is still holding his gun, but he holds it more like a tool than a weapon. He's not a good shot. His nervous stance tells you that. It's not important. You're glad that you're masked. The goggles cover most of your face, and the black hood hides the rest. Are you with them? There's a nervous look on his face, as if he isn't sure whether he should aim the gun at you. No, you can't hide the amused snort. You would be dead if that in that case. Shit. He popped his head up, taking a look around, then immediately pulled back, face white. Is that a regen? This is really happening. It was, and it is. Okay. He draws a deep breath before continuing. What do you want from me? What makes you think I want anything? You can't help sounding amused. He's catching on fast. You saved me. That usually means there's a reason. Yasmin mentioned you. I need help and you're conscripted. We both worked for the Wolfpack, but it's time to get out. You know what? Mixed truth and lies. Like, Yasmin mentioned you. Like we know someone they already know. But he doesn't know that that person is also us. Yasmin mentioned you. That makes you worth saving in my book. Not to mention that old memories are going on rerun in your head tonight, and you don't want to see Bo die. Not like Yasmin? Shit. Really? Please don't tell me she's here too. No, she's not crazy enough to be here. You're glad the mask hides your slightly manic grin. But she did say you were someone she trusted. It's not even hard to reach in and nudge suspicion into trust. Not with the way Bo's face lights up when you mention Yasmin. Maybe you should be feeling bad about this, but it's for a good cause, right? You get what you want, and he gets out alive. What are you doing here then? You can feel the willingness to help pouring from Bo. That's one of the reasons you kept in contact after your first encounter as Yasmin. Some people are just born to be good henchmen. It would be a shame to pass one up. Looking for a better opportunity? Well, the wolf pack only hired me to be a driver, and here I am with a gun in my hands and the crazies attacking. Not my idea of a good time. He takes a long look around. Honestly, with the way things are going though, I don't expect to get my paycheck. You pause for a moment, making sure nobody is paying attention to you. Maybe not from them. From me, on the other hand. Shoot. Both sides. Okay, lay it out for me. It's not getting any younger. Tell the truth. After Psychopath was canon, lie planning to use Bo for a distraction, be vague and use Bo to help with the getaway. Why would I use him for a distraction? I just saved his fucking life. He was already being a distraction. I was just gonna do that. There's no need to tell him the whole truth, too. We could probably use a getaway. Seems like we're gonna need to run pretty quick. Bo is used to obeying orders, and it's that urge you are leaning into right now. You don't need his help getting the thing you're after. Getting away, however, that's always the toughest part. I need to be able to get out of here fast as soon as I'm done with what I'm here for. Mysterious, Bo teases. Mysterious and generous, you point out. Fair enough. If it's transport you need, I have a car not far from here. One you can get to safely? You scan his face and thoughts for any hesitation and find none. There is a car, parked a safe distance from the warehouse. Uh, long as I don't run, long as I don't run into those assholes. You nod. Just keep low and run away from the fight. They're not interested in henchmen. If you don't bother them, they'll ignore you. Really? Trust me, you say with conviction, hoping that the special directive has not changed their operating procedures recently. Okay, how long are you gonna be? Not long. 10 minutes tops. Where is it? Down by the water, just follow the alley. Look for the cistern with the crate. You follow his mental impression instead, which is a lot easier to understand. I know where that is, you say, because now you do. Don't have the motor running. We don't want to draw attention to you. It's not my first rodeo, Bo says with a laugh. I know how to drive a getaway car. I'm glad we understand each other. You give Bo a little clap on the shoulder. Just give me a moment to. You scan your show. You scan your surroundings, pinpointing the little thought voids, trying to predict where the fighting will be heaviest. There, that way. Go. And remember, keep low. You don't give Bo the opportunity to refuse. Instead, you give him a mental push to start running in the right direction. To your relief, he doesn't even look back. Good. Now to get in position and wait for an opportunity. On with the show. Now it's about time to get to work. At the front end of the warehouse, the fighting is still raging. You need to get a lot closer before you will be able to act on any chance you get. The place is a massive maze of boxes and stored equipment, so you've got enough cover to get around unseen if you're careful. On the other hand, maybe it would be safer to attempt getting up into the gantries, trying to get a height advantage. There's less cover up there, but hopefully everyone is too focused on Psychopather to look up. The old monster likes his solid footing, so he'll stay on the ground. You need to get to a position where you can keep an eye on the fight, waiting for your moment. You are certain you will get the opportunity you need soon enough. You just need to avoid getting your head shot off in the meantime. Stay low to the ground, climb the fire escape to get the height advantage. Pays to be cautious in these things. It allows me to be incautious in other things. Up is safer. You don't trust your reflexes to keep you out of harm's way when it comes to destruction on this level. Plasma doesn't discriminate, and there are too many unknowns to contend with. Better by far to be a fly on the ceiling. Once you make certain no thoughts seem to be focused in your direction, you quickly scale the fire escape. Several holes have been blasted into the wall. With a bit of effort, you manage to maneuver your way across the gap to the gantries near the ceiling. Well, you didn't think it would be like this to be back in action. The stench of plasma fills the interior, mixing with the smoke, and once again you are grateful that you picked a rebreather and goggles as your mask tonight. You don't want to be revealed by a stray cop, since you have no idea what operatives the Special Directive would send to deal with Psychopather, you had to plan for gas. As you get closer, the strange green flames are bright enough to paint the interior of the warehouse in garish colors. Before Psychopather Below, Psychopather is pushing his way through fallen rubble, his armor glowing red from the heat. No discomfort is visible on his contorted face, only anger. The blue-skinned Regine confronting him is dressed in nothing but a reinforced nano-mesh skin suit. The tattoos covering his face and hands, dividing his flesh into stark patterns of orange and white. Around him, the flickering green flames are hot enough to melt steel, but the armored monster only laughs, a sound that sends a familiar shiver down your spine. Hells, I've missed being in on the action. I hope I'm ready for this because there's no turning back now. I can't stop thinking about last time I faced him. I wished Ortega were here. But you see, okay, I guess it's clear you see what I mean when I'm like, clearly, Ortega's a big positive influence in his life. We get these sort of choices even if you don't really, even if you say that, like, oh, he's someone good to have at your back or something. So it seems like the implication is very much Ortega is someone you care about, you know? Not turning back now. Feel the sweat. You can feel the sweat trickle down your back. Hope you're ready for this because there's no turning back. It's not your future and career on the line here, but your life, or worse. Maybe you should have trained more, kept in better shape. No, you can't allow yourself to doubt. Not right now. Maybe you're not in the same physical shape you were when you were sidestepped, but your mental powers are vastly more powerful. That is what you must remember. Your brain is your main weapon. Your body, well, you are taking steps to remedy that right now. Soon you won't have to worry about being too weak. Soon you won't have to worry about being recognized. All you have to worry about is going through with it. Is that all you have, you sorry excuses for government toys? Psychopather's voice echoes through the warehouse, turned a shade unearthly by the vocal distorters he's employing. You make a note of that. It's a good way to get the right impression across. He has a lot of he has had a lot of work done on his armor since you last fought him. Sharp blades protrude from his arms, and sharp spikes adorn his back and shoulders. The cannon is the same, though. You can feel the familiar scurrying thoughts of the rat brains in the targeting web. Luckily, they are busy. I'm gonna rip off your arms and send you back to your handlers like the dolls you are. The cannon on Psychopather's shoulder swerves as the rat brains catch a hint of something as the rat brains catch a hint of someone you missed. Its blast sends another tattooed man flying through the hole he came from, where he had tried to launch a sneak attack. Looks like you were right to be careful. If the rat brains can pick up the same kind of thought voids that you can, they have gotten a lot better at their job. Perfect. The fire-wielding regen unleashes another sheet of green fire, and Psychopather lumbers forward to swipe with his bladed fist, since the plasma blasts are not working. The speed is surprising for someone that massive, but the regen leaps backward with evasive grace. You had forgotten how fast they could be. Still, not your fight. Just stay hidden and watch. Wait, something is wrong. Takes a moment for you to realize there is movement in the gantries not far from you. You doubt it's one of the wolfpack. You can feel their human little minds flaring in and out of panic below, but this one is a blank. This one is blank, like a deep frozen lake. Hells! Looking around, you finally spot the Regine, inhumanly thin in her black skin suit, with four sinewy arms. Two of them are ceramic clawed, long insect-like sides that looked like they could disembowel a man with one sweep. One of her other hands holds a nasty little needle gun. Her face is pale grayish blue, tattooed with the familiar jagged lines indicating regenerative abilities. You're not sure whether the bits of carapace armor belong to the skin suit or to her flesh. Stay still, gently trying to telepathically divert her attention. If I strike hard and fast, I'll make her lose her footing. Shoot her with your tranquilizer gun. Hmm. Curious. Smart. I think we're being subtle and trying to limit how much our involvement can be tracked. So I think trying to gently divert her attention telepathically would be best. We are a little better at subtle manipulations, because that's pretty much all we've used so far. Keeping perfectly still, you try to gently bend her attention away from your position. Luckily, you are not her priority target. She keeps her gaze focused on Psychopather below. A sigh of relief escapes your lips as she drops down from the rafters without spotting him. Taking Psychopather by surprise, she lands on his shoulders and starts tearing at the cannon mount with her side arms, the strength of a far more massive body. You wince internally when you see that one of her human hands has been impaled on the sharp spikes covering his armor, and the rest of her body is lacerated as she clings on. Not that there's any sign of pain on her face, just a cool detachment as she keeps digging the chitinous tips into vulnerable joints. Psychopath roars and tries to throw her off, but her claws have already loosened the cannon from its mount. One final heave and she rips it off, throwing it as far back into the warehouse as she. Then she tries to dig her claws into his unarmored face. But you're not interested in how that fight goes. You're already moving. This is what you are here for. Finally, I was getting nervous. All according to plan. I can't believe this actually worked. Like, if we're being completely honest with ourselves, we can hardly say that this was all according to plan. Can't believe this crazy plan worked. Sure, from a tactical standpoint, it was logical that things would happen the way they did. Any team wanting to fight Psychopath would need to remove the cannon from the equation to have a chance at winning, even the special director. Right now, you are more than a little happy that their operating procedures don't seem to have changed very much. Now, you only need to extract what you came here for before something goes wrong. The targeting web. The loss of his cannon has not pulled Psychopath's fangs, and the battle to subdue the armored behemoth is still raging. Keeping your balance, you make your way across the girders, trying to spot where the gun landed. Once more, you feel that deep, vibrant hum, hurting your teeth. The air around you vibrates in response. It's not even aimed in your direction, and it still hurts. You can't imagine how Psychopath can stand it, and not that you care. The important thing is that you've made it to your target. Lying down on your stomach, you unwind the monofilament wire you've been carrying. At the end, there's a strong magnet, strong enough to hold your weight in case you need to get down or up in a hurry. Now it will serve well enough to get your target. You can feel the magnet click home as the wire goes tight, and you activate the small wince. The word is pain. The gun is heavy, but it also rises fast as you keep a nervous watch on the battle below. Nobody is looking your way, and you quickly pull the gun up on the girder next to you. It is warm enough to nearly burn your gloved hands, but you grit your teeth and begin to quickly dismantle the armored module housing your target. You can feel the alien minds chattering at you, nervous and afraid, but also soothed by the presence of another telepath. Maybe you're imagining things, but you think they feel almost grateful when the last bolts are removed and their cage falls into your hands. Reach out to brush my mind against theirs, soothing them, wrap my mind around theirs, asserting my dominance, let them reach out towards me, assuring them of my friendship. Soothing them would probably work, but hey, we're gonna be working together for a while, so assure them of my friendship. Start being nice. You hold back, letting them take the first step, reaching out towards you. 5 little rodent brains float in their nutrient bath, fragile and nervous, and linked together to become something far greater than the individual parts. The targeting web. No, the Rat King. There is a faint telepathic approval of the title, even if you're not sure they understand what it means. It doesn't matter, though, because you can feel them relax inside your mind, safe and secure and happy with their new master. Now it is time to run. Below you, the battle rages on. You count yourself lucky that everybody is preoccupied, because the sad truth of it is that if they really were after you, you would go down like a sack of rocks. This really drives home the fact that if you want to stand a chance in a proper fight, you have to hope Dr. Morton pulls up his end of the bargain. Being a telepath is an advantage only if nobody is expecting you. There are too many efficient shields and dampeners available for those who have the money and the contacts. Not that this is new to you. There is a reason why you named yourself Sidestep in the past. Just because you've switched sides doesn't mean you've stopped trying to stay one step ahead of your opposition. That's the only way you've ever been able to survive. Time to wrap this up. Picking one of the hatches at the furthest end of the building, you make your way to the rooftop once more. You slide down the fire escape as fast as you can, hoping the special directive has no interest in rounding up escaping henchmen. They have always been sent after the big fish. If they really had any interest in the wolf pack, they would have brought the LDPD along to round up any stragglers. Escaping should be easy enough. All you have to do is get to where Bo has parked the car, and you'll be home free. Pushing yourself to the limit, you sprint towards the place where Bo should be waiting. At least, you hope so. That will make things a lot easier than having to rely on other transport. Besides, it's a good test run to see whether he can be relied on in stressful situations. Eventually, you might want to have your own allies once you've gotten a new identity to go with it. By the time you reach the car, you are smiling behind your mask. Bo is waiting behind the wheel, popping the door open as you get close. Took you long enough, he says, getting the wheels rolling before you've had time to close the door. Everything worked out okay? Yes, you say, looking back over your shoulder. No trace of pursuit. Wouldn't hang around here, though. No argument here, he says, as he swerves out onto the road. He's getting nervous back there. Thanks for sticking around, you say, giving him a clap on the shoulder. It's been a rough night. You need me to drop you off somewhere? Just drop me near Old Sort of Drive. You'll find your money waiting for you at Joe's in 2 days. You reach out and lace the last words with a heavy dose of trust me. You got it. You can feel Bo's mind resisting momentarily before accepting the fact that he knows he can trust you with his life, not to mention his money. The rest of the drive is silent. You resist the urge to laugh as you realize you really did it. Your plan worked without a hitch. Still, you can't allow yourself to relax yet. Not when you have completed step 2. That night, you dream again. 7 years ago. You're walking up the stairs in your dreams. You're walking up the stairs and you want to stop. You're walking up the stairs and you want to call out to Ortega, tell him that something is wrong. You're walking up the stairs and you want to shout at Steele that he's moving too fast. The dampening field is getting too thin. He's not moving too fast. You're moving too slow. You and Anathema. You didn't mean to. You didn't mean to lag behind. It was just the pressure building. The thought that maybe, just maybe, it would feel better if you got some distance from Steele and the dampness. And of course, Anathema slowed down with you, because it was their job to watch your back. That was how things worked, because you were a team back then. And you still can't wake up. You remember walking up the stairs, and you still can't wake up. You remember hearing a sob, or maybe you were sobbing in your sleep, and don't want to remember, but you turn around all the same. Anathema was standing on the stairs behind you, looking down at their hands. Stop. The word was so small that you remember not being sure if it was you or them who uttered it. It doesn't matter. Not then, not now. And you still can't wake up, even though you remember Anathema raising their hands to their face, the corrosive acid secreted from their hands strong enough to make them smoke. It must have hurt. You remember the acrid smell of flesh. Stood frozen, unable to realize what was happening until too late. Panicked, not knowing what to do. I didn't think. I thought Anathema was invulnerable. While all of these are technically pretty valid responses, I don't know. I think that I thought Anathema was invulnerable and stuff. Makes the most sense to me, at least, because that's kind of how we were talking about him before. He's invulnerable. He's got shot. They're invulnerable. They got shot. Like they're fine. There's part of why they were on the team in the first place, or in this specific team, dealing with this problem. Yeah, I didn't thought Anathema was invulnerable. It didn't feel real. Anathema was invulnerable. There was no way their hands could really smoke like that. The flesh was eaten away. No real danger of Anathema getting hurt if they grabbed their head with both hands. You remember. You remember all the times that Anathema had laughed and made a joke as they used their power, rubbing their hands. You remember that, and you remember that you didn't really think about it. Took it for granted that it was a joke, a way of warning others to stay away from them when they did their thing. Took it for granted that the corrosive acid could never really be stronger than what you had seen, strong enough to melt steel and concrete. Took it for granted that it was the invulnerability that was Anathema's greatest power, not the acid. Not the acid that could easily eat through their flesh if they just made it powerful enough. You remember looking away, thinking it looked like a fake special effect, or looking on in fascination. Morbid fascination, I think. I can't look away at these things. Fake special effect, maybe? Let's see. Not looking like a space special effect. It didn't look real, you remember that much. The acid eating into the face, turning it glowing and green as the skin and flesh peeled away, revealing the skull beneath. It was horrible, and it was also not quite real. Not quite real until the thud of the body falling to the ground jolted you out of your trance. You'd like to think you didn't scream. You'd like to think that you showed nothing on your face as you pushed past Ortega and Steele, continuing upstairs, leaving the ruined mess behind. That mess was someone you knew, liked even. And it doesn't matter. It never matters. Getting attached is stupid. Walking upstairs is stupid too, but you have to. She is waiting for you. Did they follow? You think so. What choice did they have? They were heroes, after all. Why did you continue? Were you a hero too? You remember the pressure increasing your shields. You remember the pressure increasing, your shields growing denser under the onslaught. You should have left. You should have run for it. Let the military bomb this place to hell. Instead, you found the apartment calling to you, and the door. It was ajar. The sound of breathing was coming in there. The sound of the last thing in this building, the last thing alive in this building, except for you three. You push it open and woke up. Present day. You lie in your bed for a moment, breathing hard, trying to remember where you are, when you are. It is not 7 years ago. It is now. And the alarm is beeping because you are running late. You shut it off with a muttered curse, gathering the strength to move. Rolling out of bed is harder than you imagined. Your muscles ache, and you are fairly certain you pulled something in your back. Maybe you are getting old, but you suspect that you have just let yourself go these last few years. Maybe you're too hard on yourself. You are alive, after all, and you can slide into your puppet and leave the pain behind for now. You have a delivery to make. Once you have made sure that your own body is taken care of as well as you can manage, you leave yourself resting and healing on the bed and slip into your puppet. That way, your body can sleep without any more dreams catching you unawares. Besides, Yasmin's body is a comfortable shell compared to your own. No aching muscles, no abrasions or contusions, just smooth muscles that move with the grace you remember from back when you were still a hero. Young, fit, like a version of yourself you remember from a dream. No, no dreams. You can feel the taste of them fading away, and you make your puppet stretch and breathe deeply to make you feel at home, make you feel grounded again, real. You're not a telepath now. You're safe, physical, intact. Touching your face, you keep breathing, closing your eyes. Your thoughts are dark, empty, nothing there. You're safe. Good. Shaking your head at your own silliness, you shake loose your tense muscles, promising yourself to go training again as soon as you have time. That sounds like just what you need right now, some sweat and aching muscles to ground you in the present. Though you strive to have a balanced training regimen for Yasmin, you tend to favor oxing and keto jogging. Considering we made Yasmin like short person, a keto would probably be good to help utilize someone else's size against them. It's good force multiplier. There is one thing you've learned. It's that sometimes you do need to be able to defend yourself. You can't count on having available weapons, and since you don't have access to your telepathic powers in this body, you simply have to defend yourself the old-fashioned way. Aikido gives you the means to deal with people who are far heavier and stronger than you are. The world of villains is not a safe one, especially for a woman. Time to get going. It's too early to meet up with Dr. Mortimer at Joe's, but you don't want to delay handing over the targeting web. So you set another meeting point in a dilapidated alley near the old industrial district. The doctor sounded far too eager to begin working on it when you called him earlier. Besides, the little cluster of telepathic rat brains is getting restless without its body, and you are sure that this has something to do with your recent nightmares. You know that dreams can't hurt you, but there are things you would rather remained forgotten. You shake your head, pushing down the memories as you approach the designated meeting point. Perhaps it's the surroundings that brought them up again. The alley has an acrid chemical smell coming from the nearby industries, and the dusty window of the abandoned storefront reflects nothing but shadows. It's a desolate place to meet up, but it's one that's easily accessible and still private enough. The stench discourages anybody lingering, most likely the reason the store was abandoned in the first place. This is not the place you want to be, hiding in a puppet body, meeting in dirty alleys, but you are not ready to take your place on the scene. You're not ready yet to take your place on the scene. Not yet. Running your finger across the window, you look deep into your puppet's eyes. Are they any different now from when she was walking around, living her own life? Would anybody who knew her back then recognize that there is another intelligence lurking inside? It doesn't really matter. She has nobody left that could care. You were quite alike that way. Maybe, maybe you were too deep in your own thoughts. Maybe you were too used to relying on your telepathy. Maybe you just got sloppy. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you are looking away from the reflection of your own eyes in the window. It matters is that as you look away from the reflection of your own eyes in the window, you catch sight of Dr. Morton there behind you, holding a gun. It is aimed at you. With your hands in the air, you try to control the emotions threatening to bleed through. Now, mademoiselle, do you mind explaining how you've managed to procure this lovely little trinket right after a psychopath had got himself taken in by the special directive? The kiss of the gun is cold as it brushes the back of your head. It's not the first time this has happened. Your first reaction is to try to talk myself out of it, make a move for the gun, leave my puppet, and try to possess Dr. Morton. I'll try to talk myself out of it. Taking a moment to swallow, because your mouth is suddenly dry. You try to decide what to tell Dr. Morton. You risk telling him some variant of the truth, letting him know how you knew how to get the special directive involved. You just tell him that it's none of his business and I hope he won't get mad and decide to pull the trigger. Maybe you should just deflect. He knows you are an intermediary for your anonymous boss, so how would you know how they did things? It's a tough choice, but you have very little time to make it. Ah, man. Ah, well. Consequences of my actions. It does happen. Flirting and distracting will be fun. No, I guess not. If we're an intermediary, then it seems pretty clear that like you can't tell him. You should have known that Dr. Morton would start to feel uneasy sooner or later. He's a man used to outthinking any problems, and here he is, confronted with a set of events that he could not predict. Or perhaps it's better to say you are a person who he could not predict. Or your so-called master is. Well, mademoiselle, I am waiting. Why did the special detective show up? The gun does not waver, and neither does Dr. Morton's gaze. You shrug a little apologetically, making sure not to make any fast movements. I am sure that if my employer wanted to give you that sort of information, they would have contacted you themselves instead of going through an intermediary. And I assume that you know better than to ask, hmm? He raises an eyebrow, but the gun lowers slightly. I like getting paid. I also like remaining in one piece. Speaking of which, you point at the reflection of the gun in the mirror, causing him to look down at it, a little embarrassed chuckle escaping his lips. Oh, the gun? He raises it slightly, looking as if he hasn't noticed it until now. Yes, the gun, you reply, completely deadpan. Sorry, force of habit, mademoiselle. He puts it back in his holster, smoothing down his jacket before he looks up again. Knowing that you're both in the same boat seems to have mollified his concerns. What do you say? Shall we forget about this regrettable incident? Shall we knock off a few grand off the price? You counter. I think we shall not. Not unless you want substandard goods. The shrug is an apologetic one. I want the best, my employer wants the best. And hey, if we're gonna sell being an intermediary, you gotta make sure, be careful. My employer wants the best. You know that. It's so easy to think of Jean as a separate identity sometimes. The charade you run is starting to feel very real. Ah, your mysterious boss. When do I get to meet them? Dr. Morton gives you a curious look. He's been asking questions about who you're working for since day one. Maybe you should be glad that you haven't. I doubt they would have been happy to have you point a gun at them. Happy that you pointed a gun at them. You evade like always, because honestly, you're not sure if he could be trusted to that extent. Is he a hireling or an ally? Or maybe even a future rival? Only time will tell. That is a good point, he acquiesces with a chuckle, unaware of your thoughts. Are you planning to let me live that down sometime in the future? Maybe, if you keep your schedule. You reach into your pocket, pulling out the cylinder containing the target red. In this body, you can't feel anything from it other than its weight. It's a bit disconcerting, being head blind. You doubt you will ever get used to it. Speaking of which, Dr. Morton pauses briefly as he puts the cylinder into his pocket after quickly checking in. When can I expect the last payment? I told you to get it when I told you, get it when the project is complete, not before. You push your hands into your pockets, trying to add up how much you still need. Not as much as you had feared. It should be doable if everything remains on schedule. What is this, mademoiselle? Don't you trust me? His arms fly out in a gesture of hurt innocence. Let's just say I trust money as a motivation. You smile a little to take the sting out of the comment. That is fair. Just make sure, he admits. Just make sure you have the right amount ready to transfer once I am done. I don't haggle. My boss is not stingy, he was sure. Really? An eyebrow is raised, a faint smile playing on his lips. What was that all about before then? That was for me. You lie, because it fits the act you play. A little bit of greed to make you human, and add a few layers of obfuscation between you and your boss. A bit of hazard pay, considering you being a bit trigger happy. The bow, again, my apologies. The bow was slight but perfectly executed. Perhaps I can offer you dinner as a compensation once the business transaction is done. Hmm, sorry, but no. Well, you know what? Let's say we'll see, because, this is like, yes, maybe, no. I think it pays to be a maybe over here and try to like yank around a little bit, yeah, for pragmatic purposes. You will see, you say, your smile kept carefully neutral. You don't want to either encourage him too much or blow him off so hard his emotions get in the way of your work. Besides, you're not sure how you feel either. Getting involved too much with people can be just as risky as it can be gainful. Well then, mademoiselle, I bid you adieu for now. And with those words, the two of you part ways. You feel like you're probably going to smell up this place for a week. Next chapter. All right. We all right. So now we've gotten to the next chapter of this thing. Hmm. Sorry, continue with longer. Let's fucking do it. I could I could swing another. I could swing a bit longer. Next chapter. 1 week later. A week later, you've completed step 3 and gotten Morton's payment ready for delivery. It has been hard work and left you with a grueling headache. But if he plans to keep the deadline, you had better be prepared to deliver. The good doctor might be curious enough about the applications of your idea to accept the job, might be curious enough about the application of your idea to accept the job, but expertise doesn't come cheap. Luckily, you are not one of the hapless criminals who needs to go out and rob a bank to procure what you need. You have other, subtler methods. The world of telepathic crime is a lot less dramatic than one might think. Companies or banks handling vast amounts of cash tend to have scramblers in place, or their own security teams to detect mental intrusion. When someone wants to rob a bank, things have not changed much over the decades. The simplest path is still to physically approach with guns and explosives and be ready to deal with the consequences. Consequences you are less than fond of. That's why you stick to skimming or embezzle the rich. Again, we're being as careful and untraceable as possible. So, yeah, skimming. Embezzling the rich still means you're taking from people who will 100% notice. You know, skimming. People look down on it, and few ever admit to doing it. But frankly, little things add up in time, and nobody will be the wiser. It's easy to stand behind a man in an ATM line and, with a gentle telepathic nudge, suggest that he'll forget to take the money when he leaves. You can pick it up without problems, he will curse himself for being stupid, and if you do it at a place without cameras, there will be no trace at all. It is also easy to take a walk down the business district, looking suitably down on your luck, and ask people for for a cup of coffee. Then, when they pull out their wallet, have them mistakenly give you $100 bill instead. Since most bills look similar, they will once again feel foolish, but never guess that was a crime committed. Same with buying things with cash. It's so easy for a cashier to give you back the wrong kind of bill, and if you spread your attention, nobody will ever catch on. You usually spend a few days each month skimming, ending up with enough cash for the rent for 2 apartments, food, and clothes. In order for you to save up enough money to pay Dr. Mortem, you have been living cheap and working hard. But as far as you know, your money should be untraceable. Staying under the radar is staying staying under the radar is vital enough that you are willing to forgo luxuries for a while. Pretty soon it won't matter anymore. Nothing will. For now, you just have to stay calm, cool, collected. Make sure you don't make any mistakes or take stupid risks. Like with Lady Argent. Maybe you should have been more patient. Maybe you should have figured out another way to steal the nanovores entirely. But I was impatient. Want to see if I couldn't see another way. Yeah, I couldn't see another way. It's like the excuse I like to think because it's similar with the last plan, right? The step 2. It's like it's admittedly a pretty complicated plan, but it's like, how else were you gonna do it? I couldn't see any other way. The nanovores were stored inside the Rangers' headquarters, one of the most secure buildings in Los Diablos. It wasn't exactly a place you could just walk in, and even if you possessed someone unimportant, like a janitor, they would not have access to the storage vaults. The only ones who do are current members of the Ranger, which meant picking one of them to be your target. Plus, technically speaking, it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, the plan went a little bit awry. Because technically, if everything had went according to plan, you would have just taken it out, Lady Argent would have just dumped it, and then you scramble her brain and she forgets all about it. Only because Herald asked her, and then you kind of fucked up a little bit. That, it became a bit of a mess. It was simply the most logical choice, and if that was the wrong one, well, too late for regrets now. You really hope you scramble Lady Argent's mind enough so that she won't remember you, but it makes you nervous dealing with heroes. You used to work with these people, crying out loud. You know how they work. You know they won't quit. They never had before. The Rangers always got their man. Still, you have to admit you look forward to teaching the lesson personally. No, not the way we've been doing, talking. Butterflies in my stomach. I'm glad they don't have a telepath. Oh, definitely. Plus, it's fun foreshadowing. Glad they don't have a telepath. No matter how good they are at catching criminals and stopping threats to the city, this is not a physical match. This is your arena. As far as you know, there are no other high-level telepaths deputized by the government, and even among the independent heroes, it is a rare gift. You are, for better or worse, unique. That should give you the edge that you need, but still, no need to get sloppy. The best thing to do is to avoid any risk of suspicion. The best thing to do to avoid any risk of suspicion is to keep up your daily routine and change nothing about it. Pick up a paper, have lunch at the local diner, pretend to be normal, be nobody. Even if they knew you were, Even if they knew they were looking for someone, you would not match their profile. Not to mention the fact that you are officially dead. Hard to find a better disguise than that. It's a risk you're running, being back here in Los Diablos. Maybe you should have crossed the border into Mexico, tried to lose yourself there, or moved up the coast to San Francisco or Seattle, but I mean, running away and I'm through with that. Not necessarily true. Town where I could find everything I find everything I need. Only home I've known. Find everything I need. I mean, what else would be able to talk to like a Dr. Morton or something? You imagine how much more difficult it would be to do this plan without any of the extenuating resources like depending on here. The nanovores wouldn't even be there. Found where I can find everything I need. Los Diablos is the heart of the Free Western Territories. Though the other cities may be growing larger, this was the first. The damage was severe, sure, but even the massive quake and shifting coastline did a lot less damage to the infrastructure here than it did elsewhere. Seattle nearly got drowned by mudslides when Mount Rainier erupted. The tsunami hit Portland hard. San Francisco, well, the less said about that, the better. It's also here where you have all your contacts. You fought crime in the city for years. That makes it a lot easier to switch sides. Besides, it's a big place, and you know which areas you should avoid, where you used to go, where you used to eat. Learning new habits is painful, but it's better than being spotted. Take your favorite dinner, and take your favorite diner, for example. Back when you ran with the Rangers, you would never have visited a place like this. Not that you were a snob. You just tended to eat out with Ortega, and he had standards. This bland plastic place has no atmosphere, no heritage. It is a cheapish corporate chain restaurant catering to tourists and office workers. Yeah, Yasmin was the one who found it, but you decided it suited your own body better. As diners go, it tends to be quite busy, and the staff changes quickly enough, so nobody ever really cares whether you're a return customer or not. And if they do care, it's easy enough to get someone else to cause a scene and get them fired. Despite the plastic trappings, the food is not half bad, and it gives you an opportunity to indulge in one of the few things that keeps you sane and centered. Coffee and caffeine to function. Tobacco, having smoke eases the tension. Sugar, my brain needs the energy. Alcohol, having a beer calms me down. Okay, definitely not alcohol, I think. For high functioning, so even the thing we need needs to be something we can use. Like, not gonna dull our senses. Hmm. Not that this is necessarily the most important choice. The fact is there are too many choices that do make sense. I'll pick tobacco. Having a smoke eases the tension. It would make this more unique. You could have coffee or sugar or whatever. Sometimes it feels nice to have something to do with your hands, and smoking always helps ease the near constant tension you feel. Also a fair point. Besides, there is something magical about the smoke, isn't there? The way it curls through the air, making patterns, reminding you of the first one you ever had back when. I can't believe it! Jean? Is that really you? The voice startles you enough to make you drop your cigarette mid-breath. Who? You manage to sputter as you look up. The surprise is not fake. You would not sense anybody approaching with the intent of talking to you, which is odd considering you always have half a feeler brushing the minds of the crowd these days. Who around here still knows you as Jean anyway? You haven't used that name in interactions with others for years. Though the voice is familiar. I can't believe it. It really is you. You're alive. The man standing in front of you is familiar as well. A tall Hispanic man in his late 30s with a determined jaw and a broad grin plastered on the deeply tanned face. The trimmed mustache is new, but as soon as you pick up the low-level static hum, your brain catches up to the situation. Ortega. Of course. I think this one's great because we weren't actively flirting with him, even though, I don't know, in my head, we definitely still had a crush. And I think, if I remember correctly, that is a choice for that later. But well, we'll see. We'll see. Either way, it's like, smile growing my face despite my surprise, but no. In normal circumstances, maybe, but it's like our little person over here, John, is a bundle of fucking paranoia. There's no way. Like this can't be a coincidence. A sinking feeling in your gut tells you this can't be a coincidence. How have you slipped up? Where have you been spotted? That he's here for you goes without saying. Why else would he come here so far from his usual stomping grounds? But more importantly, how much does he know about what you've been up to? That is the only thing that keeps you from escaping while you still have the chance. Ortega? His name is a safe way to start. You need to figure out how to play this apart from acting surprised. No, not acting, being. Right now, the safest thing you can do is just be honest about how confused you feel. That really you? Just hells. What has it been? Almost a decade. 7 years, he said, with a look that makes you wonder if he has kept track of the days as carefully as you have. He takes a seat without invitation. He always was too intrusive, too friendly. You would never have ended up friends otherwise. A battering ram was needed to break down the walls you had built around yourself. I. This is. You flounder, unsure what to say, because every word could reveal something you don't want it to. A surprise? Ortega keeps looking at you, and those brown eyes are as sharp as ever. You had forgotten how it felt to have that intensity focused directly on you. You can almost smell the ozone. Got it in one, you say, trying to crack a joke, but your smile is fake and brittle. Can't believe it's really you, Jean, he continues with a growing smile, somewhat more able to find words than you are. They said you were dead. That's a load of. He frowns a little and cocks his head. You are all right, right? I am alive, anyway, you say evasively, putting out the cigarette you drop before it starts a fire. The napkin is already smoldering, a black hole growing larger. Fire consumes. You know that too well. And I'm sitting here and having a smoke. That counts as all right, I suppose. What do you say to someone you used to trust when he's now your enemy? Everything is suddenly fraught with risk. You don't dare open too many cans of worms. It does, he agrees, nodding vigorously. What you went through, when you went through that window, when you went through the window, I thought, I guess we all did. It was a long way down. I never would have thought you survived. Part of you did not. The ground coming up fast, imprinting on your retinas in excruciating detail. The sting in your palms from broken glass, your breath stolen by the wind. The pressure in your mind has finally found release in the freedom of this moment. In the distance, you hear silence. In the distance, you hear screaming. Below, you see the cordon deserted. The LDPD have abandoned their posts. A brief moment of telepathic clarity more powerful than you have ever felt before. You can sense them running in the distance, panicking as the pressure intensifies. You close your eyes, but they are still inside. You can feel their minds snuffed out one by one. A different kind of vertiginous relief. You shake your head. I almost didn't, you admit, dispelling the unwanted memories. How do you look to him right now? Do you look like a failure? A has-been? A former hero who just couldn't take the heat? You hope so, but you also hope that you don't look like too much of a loser. Ortega was your friend, and if he starts to worry too much, you'll never get rid of him. Once we. There's a grimace on Ortega's face, and you suddenly don't want to know how he ended the heartbreaker threat. There was an explosion. I guess you wouldn't know that. Steele made the call, and I was too close, so I was knocked out. Once I woke up, I tried looking for you, but there were medical staff everywhere, and Steele said you'd been taken away in an ambulance, died on your way to the hospital. Steele said you can't help the faint twitch. I guess he misunderstood. It was chaotic. His dampeners were blown. When I tried to find your body, they said it had been cremated together with the rest of the victims. They feared there might be a chemical agent involved, and all the bodies were disposed of quickly. Ortega keeps looking at you across the table, and you can see the way his hand twitches. Does he want to reach out and touch you? You lean back a bit. You lean back a little, just in case. I was very badly hurt. It's not a lie. You could have died. Part of you wanted to. Where have you been all these years? Ortega asks, trying to catch your gaze. But you keep evading. How do you answer something like that? You can't very well tell the truth. Maybe just a fraction of it. I focus on the trauma. Um, the best lies are woven around a core of truth. And if we just focus on the trauma, he might just keep searching. There was a reason why I never joined the Rangers, even though you invited me. You are weighing your words carefully, but part of you feels that maybe Ortega deserves a little bit of the truth. I did survive the fall, but there were people there waiting for me. That ambulance Steele saw me carted away in did not bring me to a hospital, at least not to an official one. I had enemies. You can't stop the half-choked chuckle from escaping. Have enemies, I suppose. They got to me, faked my death. Once I got free, it seemed like my best option was to just retire and pretend to be dead. Why didn't you contact me? If you were in danger, I could have helped. We could have helped. Ortega looks like he really means it. For a moment, you feel a familiar lump in your stomach. Lump of regret. I wish I could have handled things differently. Lump of anger. Where does he get off putting this on your shoulders? Nervous lump. Just want him to stop asking. Yeah. Lump of regret. Ortega brings up old, better memories. Maybe I should have, you admit with a small sigh. Maybe they even would have helped, even if they knew the truth. But that's water under the bridge by now. You can't change the past, only the future. But I didn't. Are you still in trouble? Ortega asks, his eyes narrowing in concern. Always so eager to come to the rescue. I'm fine, you say, dismissing the concern with a shrug. Well, apart from memories, but that's just the past. The past can't hurt me. You lie. I'm glad you're fine, Ortega says with a sigh. But you could at least send us a message or something. We thought you were dead. I spent the last 7 years thinking about what I could have done differently. Why didn't you contact us? The reproach is there, shoved down your throat with a hurt glance. Part of you wishes you could tell the truth, expose this charade for what it really is. But that would mean giving up on what you have spent the last years planning, and you have sacrificed too much for that. What's one relationship compared to what you have to do? Dust in the wind. But dust or not, there is still a man seated across from you, waiting for an answer. I was ashamed. It was a relief not to have to do this anymore. I was afraid to get back in action. I didn't want to risk involving you in my problems. Hmm. Hmm. I'm a little torn. Ashamed would also probably be a good way to answer this, but I risk involving you in my problems. They're pretty isolated. Didn't want to risk involving you in my problems. Once I had escaped their care, you say, cringing just a little how close you are approaching the truth. But his gaze softens, and you know you hit the right note to get some sympathy. We're talking about people with the ability to whisk me away from an ambulance and fake my death. If I told you the truth, all I would have done was risk your lives as well. John, we're rangers. We're, risk your lives as well. John, we're the rangers. That's what we do. Ortega is talking slowly, as if he was explaining why the sky is blue to a child. And you are my friend. Think I wouldn't risk my life for you? That's the point. You can't hold back the grimace because part of you wants this to be the truth. But you know that he's only saying this because he doesn't know who you really are. The pain hurts, so you channel it in frustration. Maybe I don't want you to do that. Maybe I want to protect you for once. Maybe I want you to be safe, to be happy. What makes you think I would be happy thinking you were dead? He has raised his voice enough to get some looks, so he quickly lowers it again. I was devastated. I spent 7 years thinking I'd caused your death. I never wanted you to think. I never wanted you to blame yourself. You protest, raising your voice as well. That part is true. It hadn't even crossed your mind that Ortega might take. It hadn't even crossed your mind that Ortega might have taken your death personally. I thought you'd just move on and forget about my best friend. The words are sharp. This time you look up and meet Ortega's eyes, a bit surprised at how good he still is at reading your mind. You did think exactly that he still cares is a risk and an annoyance. You were meant to be forgettable. He wasn't the only one who died. I know. We held a funeral for you and Anathema, but you were my friend, my best. Ortega starts, brows arching in a vaguely displeased frown. But the look on your face stops the accusation in their tracks. You are so obviously not taking any pleasure from this that his anger gets derailed. John, are you sure you're fine? I know you said so, but you look like hell. I am fine. You lie. I'm just living a quiet life right now. Sidestep is dead. It was just as well. That name was a stupid pun from the start, to let people think that your powers were based on martial arts rather than predicting your opponent's moves. With telepathy being an exceedingly rare gift, you couldn't take the risk of being found out, so only a select few people ever knew the truth about your powers, if not your past. Just like almost nobody knows about Ortega's epilepsy. Once Dr. Mortem is finished, you will have to pick what your new name will be. Hopefully, something a bit more imposing. You have a few alternatives going around in your head, but none of them have really felt right. Hopefully, you'll come up with one soon. Sidestep might be dead, but you are not. Ortega looks as if he's not sure he should continue, but does so anyway. You're still a telepath, right? The question surprises you. For a moment, you're not sure what you should say. Making up a lie that you have lost your powers seems as unlikely and risky as admitting you still have them. Ortega believes you are a boost, someone who took the hero drug and lucked out with a spin of the wheel of fate. If you imply that you've lost your powers, that would have consequences for other boosts as well, and things could snowball. On the other hand, if you admit to still being a telepath, you can end up as a possible suspect in the future. Yes, I'm still a telepath. I mean, I feel like it makes more sense though here to admit that we are still a telepath because, you know, yeah, we'll be a suspect. But the lie of I don't have my powers anymore is way too hard to sell, considering it has implications for everyone who's taken a boost. I feel like it would be even more eye-catching, and we have to do tests to figure out why exactly it happened or something. No, it might not be exactly that, obviously, but I'm trying to be as unspoilery as possible. But anyway, yes, it makes I think more sense here for being still a telepath. I am, you confess, because to say anything else would mean making things up. The truth always seems simpler. But it's a long stretch from having powers to having the guts to use them. These days, they just mostly save me from getting jostled when someone hurries through a crowd. You laugh, and the joviality falls even to your own ears. I'm glad. Ortega laughs as well, and somehow his laugh is making your own sound less false. For a brief moment, you feel the sudden urge to give up, to tell him everything, to ask for help, to go straight. Not straight, but yeah. You've missed this. You've missed Ortega so badly. Since you can't read his mind to see what he really thinks of you, there are still illusions of friendship and trust. I could really use your help, he finally admits. You are sure your mouth actually stops working for a moment before you manage to get out a confused, what? I know this is sudden, and I know you're retired, but I just don't know who else to trust. You showing up here right now is, I won't lie, feels like Providence. Suddenly, Ortega looks his age, pushing 40, with the wrinkles around his eyes to show for it. Show it. That's not a considerable age for the enhanced. In many cases, the augments and drugs coursing through their systems keeps them younger and fitter than is fair, as long as there is someone willing to sponsor their upkeep. The benefits of being a ranger are second to none. I mean, you manage to get out, paranoia crawling down your spine as you try to process this. Is this a trap? Does he suspect? What is he up to? Has he followed you here? Your heartbeat quickens when you take another drag on the cigarette to calm down. Because I trust you. Because I always trusted you. Ortega looks straight at you, the words so simple and honest that you want to call his bluff. But the man in front of you looks so tired and frail that before you can help yourself, the words slip out. Tell me about it. Would it be all right if we talked somewhere safer? Ortega fiddles with his cup. You can see the telltale signs of nervousness in the way his fingers refuse to stay still. Safer? Is it that bad? Maybe it's his nervousness that does it, but you are finding yourself calming down. If this really were a trap, it would be an awkward way to go about it. And if he really needs help, well, it can't hurt to have a contact still in the hero game, as long as he doesn't suspect. Hmm, excuses. Maybe, I don't know. It's just that it's not my secret. Secret? Ortega, since when did you start having secrets? The very thought is absurd. You were the one that had secrets, even back then. Well, to be honest, it's my friend. She's friend, you said, raising an eyebrow. You feel slightly. Shit, that sounds out of that friend. Right. Clearly you do want to get you asked about it. Curious, amused. Hmm. But maybe amused. We are kind of we used to back and forth a bit, at least in the psychopather one. So clearly that is a departure. So maybe, being back here brings back old, clearly bringing back some old memories and associations. So yeah, maybe amused. It's not like that, he assures with a slightly embarrassed smile. Don't tease me. She really is just a friend. If you say so. You tease, raising your hands defensively as he gives you a stern look. Fine, she's a friend of yours. A friend in trouble, apparently. That's not something you're a stranger to either, he points out. Yeah, I do have a habit of putting my nose where it doesn't belong, don't I? You wish it weren't true, but he was there for a lot of those occasions, so he would know. You've grown smarter over the years, you hope. Just let me give her a call and check first, okay? Ortega pulls out a phone from his pocket, making you smile a little at the size of it. There was a reason his code name was Charged. It was all too easy to ruin any electrical components he touched, so things had to be specially insulated if he wanted them to last. Hence, the insulated brick of a phone. Angie? Okay, that's not talking loud, but you are far too curious not to try to listen in. Are you around this afternoon? Good. And the rest? Good. I was thinking, uh, I was thinking about coming by, and he gives you a quick look before continuing. I've met someone that might be able to give some input. Jean Doe. You suppress a shiver. How long has it been since you've heard that name? I know. Ortega shakes his head, still on the phone. I know, but would you be willing to? Yes, I know. Yes, I know. That's why I'm calling you. He sighs a little, waiting for the person on the other side to calm down. Yes, of course I can vouch for them. I wouldn't suggest this otherwise. Another pause, interrupted by an amused chuckle. Yes, that, Sean. Who else would it be? I know. That's a long story, but yes, very much alive. And retired. I just thought, yes, that's exactly why I suggested it. I'll see you in a while then. You were quiet for a bit, waiting for Ortega to hang up. Are you okay over there? Apparently you were quiet for too long. Ortega has leaned forward a little, looking worried. I'm fine, just thinking. Say I'm hoping you don't expect me too much. Be sure his friend is okay with this. Keep expectations low. You're playing the retired, out of it. Well, I don't know, you say, rubbing your head a little. I just hope you don't expect too much from me, considering I haven't done this in years. It'll be fine. We're looking for advice more than anything. Ortega pays your tab, tipping generously. Honestly, I'm just glad to have someone who knows anything about this to talk to. Someone? You ask with a small smirk as you both stand up. Well, he starts looking a little embarrassed. If by someone you mean you, I've missed you, Jean. The hug is such a surprise that you're not able to avoid it. You suddenly find yourself pulled into a tight embrace, a gesture of affection that used to be common between you. Ortega is a very physical man. Back then, you quickly realized you had to learn to deal with it. But that was years and years ago. Since then, have you ever touched anybody like this? Apart from accidentally brushing against strangers in a crowd, you honestly don't think so. Not in your own body. That makes you feel wistful, awkward, sad. I think wistful makes sense. This is a whole what could have been sort of time. Wistful. You feel yourself tear up a bit, even though you curse your own weakness. You shouldn't be so affected by this. If he knew the truth, he would back away in disgust. Ortega has no idea that he's hugging a lie, but right now, that's okay, because you need this. Really, what's the harm? You can be allowed to lie to yourself for a few hours, to pretend things are still the way they used to be. That won't change a thing. He's the one who steps away first. You both take a moment to collect yourself. I couldn't hug you when I first saw you, Ortega explains sheepishly. You were sitting down. Never thought a mere table would stop you, you say. The small, the small smile on your face is not faked for once. Oh, shall we go meet your friend? Might as well get this over with so you can set up a date with Morton to deliver the money as soon as possible. One cab ride later. There was a saying back at the farm: never volunteer for anything. Right now, you regret not listening to that advice. Just because you and Ortega used to be friends doesn't mean you're on the same side now. You need to remember that. Why would you have agreed to help him out without asking for details? This could have been averted if only you'd been a little bit more suspicious. Yeah, this is the thing that's always funny about Fallen Hero Rebirth. It's and Fallen Hero series in general. That it's like most of the time you could be this like super smart fucking uh cautious, careful villain, but they're also so bad at dealing with real human affection and stuff. They could be like, it's like half the time with this stuff, you can play it like, oh, god damn it, why did I agree to do this? It was a bad idea. I'm being stupid. I'm being stupid. I'm being stupid. And then you keep doing it. You need to remember that Ortega is not on your side anymore. Else. What's wrong? Ortega asked, looking a little worried since you are suddenly rooted to the pavement where the cab left you off. You hope you didn't swear out loud. What is this? You look up at the austere building which is looming over you, its sharp, modernist angles breaking up the sunshine into patterned shadows that cascade over the facade. There are far fewer windows than in a normal office building, and you know the ones that are there are reinforced against stronger things than recurring earthquakes. It's an impressive building, sure, but that's not why you couldn't bite back your gasp. It is above all a familiar one. You are looking up at the current headquarters of the Rangers, trying not to panic. Hells indeed. Oh, I forgot you hadn't seen the new building. Ortega smiles and gestures towards the deceptively unguarded entrance. Got finished about 2 years ago. Finally got the backing to pull it off. They are sinking a whole lot more money into the Marshall system these days. Maybe Steele is just better at getting it than I was. The laugh had a faint tone of self-mockery, but you don't join in. I didn't know your problem involved the Rangers. You know he's looking at you strangely, but you can't help yourself. I didn't want to talk in too much detail about it at the diner. You never know who's listening. Is that a problem? Mouth was like dry ash, but you have to say something. Didn't expect it to have anything to do with the Rangers. I thought it was just a favor for a friend. I'm retired and out of the hero business. You know, this seems, again, core of truth, right? Thought it was just a favor to a friend is what you did thing. I just thought it was a favor to a friend, you say, keeping a straight face. Not something involving heroes. You want to get the hells out of here, but you hold your ground all the same. You've gotten too far to back down now without arousing suspicion. It's not like I'm asking you to come out of retirement, just to share your insights on something. Ortega clearly seems to be confused about why you were hesitating, which makes sense. While you never actually were a ranger, you worked with them regularly, and you visited their old headquarters more than once. I know, you sigh, resisting the urge to just turn around and hail a cab. Just don't expect too much. Shall we then? Ortega gestures towards the entrance, chuckling a little. They won't bite, I promise. I'm gonna hold you to that promise, you mutter as you follow, trying to keep your nerves from showing. Just like walking a tightrope. The first thing that strikes you is how different this place looks through your own eyes compared to view, the multi-spectrum vision of Lady Argent. Back when you stole her body, you did it from afar, so you never had to approach this place in person. The risk was just too great, and you wanted to avoid the very thing you are walking right into now. Old and nosy friends. It wasn't even hard to arrange an encounter with her. She frequents she frequented a physical therapist's office located close to a suitable hotel. Since she was on a regular enough schedule for you to prepare in advance, All you had to do was rent a room under an assumed name and keep an eye out for her as she exited her appointment. Mind all relaxed and easy to possess. Habits can be as dangerous as they can be helpful. But having done all this in her body also means you are not prepared for how drab and ordinary this place looks, with its smiling receptionist and bored security officer. The walls look like ordinary walls, painted in subtle colors and hung with posters and pictures. You see no trace of electricity humming through hidden circuits, or of the multitude of security systems you know are there. The Rangers are not exactly the LDPD, but they are still an official team. That means the whole package with government liaisons and everything that comes with it. No wonder you didn't sign up even when you were on the same side. As far as you know, a physical scan should trigger nothing. You know from experience that you read exactly like a normal human to the various systems that scans for boosts or mods. Unless there has been some new development in sensor technology you haven't heard of, you should be safe. For you, the bigger danger was always dampness rather than scanners. All you had to do is relax your telepathic gifts, leave them simmering in their most dormant state. That's way, that way, even if they have a sensitive on staff, they will detect nothing more than what you already confessed to having. Swallowing hard, you follow Ortega towards the elevator. The elevator looks too much like a cell, but you enter anyway. I can't believe you're not the marshal anymore, you say to break the silence once the elevator starts moving. The vibration of the engine hides any evidence of the sensors you know must be there, checking every aspect of your bodies. There is probably somebody sitting in a room far from here, seeing how nervous you are on their thermal readings. You only hope that's natural for most people who are let into this place. Things were different after the heartbreak fiasco. Ortega goes silent for a moment, watching his reflection in the steel door before he continues. People died. Friends died. You. I thought you were gone as well. His hands twitched, but he doesn't look at you. If I had made a different call, you and Anathema might still be alive. I didn't want the responsibility anymore. He leaned forward into the security scanner, the pale blue light playing over his eyes and face. I thought about retiring, but grew antsy after a week. I'm not one for living quietly. I suppose I almost envied it. I suppose I almost envy you that. You shouldn't, you managed to say with a faint smile as the door hissed open. Door hiss open, and you step out into the hallway. You sift through the fading Lady Argent's memories, and you think this might be leading to the fourth floor conference room. Being able to quit is nothing to be proud of. Not that you not that you have, even though he doesn't know the truth. Changed, yes. Quit, no. You always make me proud, Jean. There's no shame in retiring. There it is again, the voice, that voice so filled with caring and confidence. Can his concern really be true? Maybe he really doesn't suspect a thing. I still don't understand what this is all about. You begin, but fall silent as you enter the room. See Lady Argent standing motionless near the window, as still as a statue with her back to you. Marshal Steele sits slouched in the chair that barely holds up under his bulk. Even without his armor, his body is heavy with the cybernetic implants needed to control it. Harold looks up from where he stands, and there is a haggard, nervous look to him, as if he has been pacing. He still has bruises on his face. You can sense the tension in the room even without flexing your telepathic muscles. I'm sorry. I had Angie call you all in so suddenly. Ortega apologizes, and then gestures towards a chair. Have a seat, John, and we'll explain everything. You take the seat, face carefully calm, though you half expect restraints to snap shut around your wrists and gas to start pouring out of the walls. But there is nothing. Edel sits down, Lady Argent remains standing. Marshal Steele taps his fingers against the armrest of his chair, as he looks between you and Ortega, as if he doesn't know what to feel. Right now, you can't afford to pry. Honored to meet you all. No. Hello, Shen. It's been a while. Remain quiet. Okay. Hello, Shen. It's been a while. Hey there. Hmm? Hello, Chen. You say, giving Steele an awkward smile. It's been a while. So, you are not dead. The words are dry and clipped. You can't decide whether he sounds more annoyed or suspicious. No hugs from you. No hugs for you here. I thought Argent had misheard. It's a long story. You let your shoulders sag a little. Ortega will fill you in later. Ortega has a lot of things he needs to fill me in about. You recognize that tone of voice, though for once you were not the target of his ire. Later, okay? Ortega looks over towards Lady Argent, who is still staring out the window. That's not why we're here. Agreed. Steele leans back again in his chair, arms crossed in expectation. Let me just say that I, for one, am glad to have your assistance, Harold said, clearly intent on bringing everybody back on track. And that you're alive, of course. Charge has always been spoken very highly about you. Now that sidesteps, you quickly raise a hand to interrupt. Sean, just Sean. Sidestep was 7 years ago, as was Sean. You feel like you've almost forgotten what kind of person you were back then. Harold wouldn't know, of course. Ortega is more than willing to apologize for your faults. But Steele is a different story. What does he see when he looks at you? He's not even the wildest card here. You wish Lady Argent would turn around so you could see if her eyes flash with recognition. The tension makes your gut twist. As you wish, Jean. Harold smiles, that wide and easy grin that has melted the hearts of millions of fans. He is a relatively new addition to the team, a young man betting against the house as he injected himself with the hero drug, walking away with the powers of flight and durability. Few boosts hit the kind of jackpot he had. If you hadn't seen the serious look on his face when you walked in, you would have had your doubts whether he had landed you. Let's move on to the business at hand, Ortega starts sitting down as well. I know we all have other things to do, especially you, Jean. I know that I should respect your retirement, but we can't trust anybody else with this. Why me? So what's this all about? It's that bad, huh? So what's this all about? Because we definitely don't know what's happened. Mhm. So what's this all about then? You look around the table, wondering who will be the one to explain things. That says a lot about group dynamics. As expected, Steele leans forward, looking straight at you as he speaks. A week ago, an unknown assailant manipulates Lady Argent into stealing an extremely dangerous item. Now, she does not remember much, but she got the impression that this was not one of our usual villains. You sit quietly, because that is the only thing you can do. You sit and wait for it. What could you have missed that she picked up on? What tracks had you not erased? When will they end this masquerade and drag you to jail? Or worse, back to the farm. The thought of spending years in their dampened fields sends shivers down your back, and absurdly you feel the need to be sick again. You wish you could light up a cigarette, but you're willing to bet this whole facility is non-smoking. It was one of our own. Lady Argent speaks up for the first time, her voice as hard as her silvery skin. I don't remember much, but that was the impression I got. This was someone who was supposed to be on our side. She is looking straight at you, sizing you up, but there is no flash of recognition, no widening eyes, no pointed fingers and accusations. A hero? Your surprise is not faked because you wonder how she got that impression. Perhaps your lingering bad conscience that you had to use her so? Perhaps you have to watch your subconscious more when you possess people, not just your conscious thoughts. Apparently, you had not prepared adequately for the emotional residue. Lesson learned. Now you just have to stay out of jail to use it. Yes, she says, and finally sits down, silver lips curled in an unhappy scowl. That's why. This is why we couldn't just bring in any of the psychics we know. Could be anybody. Unlike Harold, she has no outward marks from the fight. She is as smooth and perfect as always, her blue suit as tight as a second skin atop her silver one. No need for armor. You're a perfect nobody. As if she realizes how that sounds, she frowns, dismissing her previous judgment. Well, not exactly a nobody. Ortega always spoke well of you. I'm flattered. Ortega exaggerates a lot. He's a pathetic sad nobody. We are a nobody. That is the right impression. Ortega tends to exaggerate a lot. I'm nowhere near as skilled as he seems to have said that I am. You give Ortega a quizzical look. Has he been talking about you after your death? Filling the heads of the new recruits with stories about your heroic career? My psychic powers are not that strong, you continue. I used to browse surface thoughts to get an edge in a fight. It's hardly telepathic power enough to go up against someone who could control you like that. You're a lot stronger than you think you are, Ortega says, giving you that smile again. The trust in his eyes makes you want to smack that smiling face. You don't need this on your plate, too. The deed was over and done with. They don't know that. They only know that something is wrong, that they haven't they ha- they only know that something is wrong, that they haven't been ugh, words words are hard sometimes. They only know that something is wrong, that they have been betrayed by someone they should trust, and they will keep looking for an answer. I suppose, you admit with a sigh, that you can't stop their investigation. It is far better if you are involved. If you turn them down, they will go to somebody else, and that somebody else might start to unravel the weave of obfuscation you have woven inside her mind. Not to mention that the Rangers are now aware of the fact that you exist and have powers. It's not as if you can just leave this alone. If Lady Argent permits it, I can try to make the memories clearer and see if there aren't some more clues that she just can't remember. Lady Argent pulls back a little and gives you a look as if you've promised to shoot her, but she reluctantly nods. If that's what it takes. She tosses back her silver hair with a flourish, as if you had just issued her a challenge. Let's do this. Wait a minute, you protest. I haven't really used my powers for years, let alone for something like this. Please, give me time to center myself. I need to cleanse my mind. That is one word for it. You have to come up with a distinctly different telepathic feel, one that can't be associated with what has happened to her. This will take work, not to mention figuring out which direction you want the evidence pointing. That's probably wise, Steele admits reluctantly, still looking at you as if he expects you to mess up. Nothing new there. I'll need a week or two, you suggest after pondering your schedule, and I'd like to have Ortega there as well. He won't influence the process since he's unreadable. You give Ortega what you hope is a suitably nervous smile. The truth is, you want Ortega there as a witness and as an anchor. If he's around, you'll have an easier time remembering who you used to be. Sidestep, the hero. He is the mask you need. If you don't mind, Angie, I'd be honored. There's something there that you can't pick up on. Something between Ortega and Lady Argent that almost makes her say no. Something that causes her to frown. Something interesting. Fine, she says after a few moments of hesitation. You win. We'll do it your way. Try to get ready as fast as you can. You are not sure which one of you is the most relieved when you are finally allowed to leave the room. The corridor outside is empty, and you have to stop yourself from just making a run for it. Instead, you lengthen your steps as you head back to the elevator, letting out a deep breath of relief. Not that you get far. Wait. The voice is Steele's, and it makes you reflexively freeze up until you realize that the tone is not a threatening tone. If anything, there is a look of regret on his face when you turn around to see him. Huh, that can't be right. I'll walk you out, he says, falling into step behind you, unbidden. It's a funny feeling, being around Steele without his armor. You're so used to him being massive that it somehow feels off when he's just around your height. To be fair, he is far bulkier than you, and probably weighs at least twice as much. You don't know if he's had more of his body replaced with cybernetic implants since back when you knew him, but there was always a good amount of metal hidden behind synth skin. Both his lower legs are artificial, that you know, and here, his stride is a lot heavier than yours. The left arm might be new if you're reading his body language correctly. So, he says, clearing his throat since you still haven't replied to him. It's not a conversation you want to have, but you also know better than to fight him on this. So, maybe if you're lucky, you can keep this to single syllable words and get out of here before you reveal yourselves. So you survived. Steel cuts in front of you, forcing you to stop. Oh well, a confrontation it is then. That's one way of putting it. You don't bother to put on the smiling mask for him. This is not Ortega. Steele doesn't care one whit about how you feel, just whether you're a threat or not. Little does he know. And now you're back. Not by choice. Trust me on that. You let yourself sag a little, the frustration leaking to the front. This is not fake, and you hope that he picks up on that. Ortega pulled me into this. If I had known, he wouldn't have come. He finishes your sentence for you, and you answer with a nod. I am retired. You were never comfortable here, even before your return. Steele looked around the corridor. The wide, stark hallway, a marked difference from their older, grimier headquarters. This place is too new to have a personality here. I think you mean Dad. I've never been here before. You made it hard to feel at home. Blaming him. That's not it. Not about being comfortable, it's about being retired. All this just reminds me what I have lost. Hmm. I wonder what this. Forget exactly. This might be if you know. Oh yeah, what I've lost because I didn't. Uh, my telepathic, like I, because I still have my telepathic things. So it's like, oh, if you say you didn't have it, then maybe this would be the case. Yeah, comfortable. It's about being retired. Nope. It's not about being comfortable. It's about being retired. You let your shoulders sag a little more, feeding into the whole has-been persona. Feels like you're driving that point home a little too hard, Steele says with a frown, in the hopes that maybe someone will listen. You don't rise to his challenge, you just shrug and look down. Because I doubt Ortega will. He will. Steele, Steele sighs, his frustration changing directions. I will make sure he understands. Let's not play pretend here, Steele. Your voice hardens. We were never friends. Regardless, I didn't want to see you dead. There's something oddly official in the way he says it. Maybe he never considered you a teammate, but you were allies once upon a time. And I am happy that you're still alive. As long as I stay a long way away from the Rangers, huh? You can't help the wry, tired smile that appears on your face. There is only one reason he would have followed you out here. I'm glad that we understand each other. Steele answers your smile with a tense one of his own. Close, you can see that he's gotten older as well. The stress of leadership, perhaps? We do. You run a hand over your face, regaining your composure. Maybe you can actually make some use of his suspicious nature and get him to make Ortega back off. But let's be real here. We both know I'm not the problem. The problem. The new voice is enough to make both you and Steele jump. Harold. Steele gives you a thoughtful look, though he keeps talking to Harold. You never used to let someone get the drop on you in the old days. This, if nothing else, should show him that you are not who you used to be. I had expected you to stay with Argent. Ortega's talking to her. I thought I'd go check. Harold looks so nervous that it takes a moment for you to notice he's hovering an inch or so above the ground. Then he realizes what he's doing and slowly sinks back down. Oh, check on what? You can't help the question because you have a sinking suspicion you know the answer. Actually, Ortega asked me to make sure that nothing. He hesitates for a moment, looking between the two of you. Has happened. Of course he did. Steele's sigh is heavy with the lack of surprise as well. I'm fine. Chen was just walking me to the door. Just catching up on old times. I can find my own way out now. Perfect timing. Want to show me out, Harold? Hmm. 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 Actually, no. We don't like, or at this point in time, Jean doesn't have that good an impression of Harold. So he probably wouldn't go out of his way to be like, show me out. And Chen was just walking in. Chen was just walking into the door. I'm fine. Chen was just walking me to the door. A smile is a peace offering you hope Steele will take. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Harold looks a little confused. It's obvious he has no idea the tensions between you and Steele, but he knows that something is going on. You were just discussing old memories. Steele straightens slightly, sharing a look with you. You can only imagine how frustrating that must be for Harold to always be the new guy and to have his face rubbed in it. I think I worries too much. You square your own shoulders, quite aware that Harold has been looking at you strangely all afternoon. Why? Is he picking up on something you are projecting? There is no way he can know that you were really the one who beat him up. That's true, Harold says with a relieved laugh. I'll get back then. It was really nice to meet you. Sidestep. John, you say reflexively. Come on. Steele turns around and starts walking down the hallway. Let's get you out of here. Follow in silence, aware of Harold's eyes boring into your back. You really can't get out of here fast enough. Into a welcoming cab. It takes three different cabs and two stretches of brisk walking before you feel comfortable enough to finally go back home. You haven't been able to spot any people following you, but there's no way of telling if they have high altitude drones shadowing you at every step. It's a useless exercise to be paranoid. Sooner or later, Ortega will find out where you live if he wants to. You don't have any incriminating evidence in there anyway, but you have worked hard for your privacy. You're not about to give that up now. Not when you finally have a life where you can make the choices, when you can make choices that matter to you. Closing the door behind you, you make sure to lock it. Nothing looks like it's been disturbed, but you make the rounds all the same, checking to see if any of your little warning items have been disturbed. Nothing. The near invisible piece of tape is still there at the top of your bedroom door, and what you can pick up of your neighbor's thoughts show nothing out of the ordinary. Things feel safe, but you're still keyed up from running into Ortega. You can't take anything for granted, not really, but you also can't allow yourself to get too paranoid. A certain amount of risk is acceptable, so you need to stop worrying and start thinking. Pulling out your crumpled pack of cigarettes, you shake one out. The light of the match smells briefly like sulfur as you puff the cigarette away. Turning on the computer, you lean back in your chair, watching the smoke filter towards the ceiling. Your computer takes a while to boot up, and you look up at the ceiling as it slowly goes through the motions of waking up. The virus checkers slow everything down to a crawl. You know you should get a new one, but you've sunk all your money into your project, so there's little to spare. Double the bodies means double the bills. It's not like you are used to better accommodations anyway. Once again, routine is a friend that you rely on, a safe port in an emotional storm. You want to let out the frustration and rage you feel of almost being exposed like this, but you can't allow yourself that release. Rage is a dangerous thing for a telepath. It makes you lose control, makes your shields brittle, and above all, makes you prone to mistakes. You need a clear head. So if you're not to be angry, what should you be then? Productive, perhaps. Meeting Ortega again was a shock. You have no idea whether you can manage to keep up the mask of who you once were if you keep interacting. Staying in hiding is no longer an option. You promised to help Lady Argent, and it is too late to go back on your word. Problem is that Ortega knows a different Sean, one you can hardly remember. How did you talk back in those days? What did you feel? Did you trust Ortega? You suppose you must have. Once someone has saved your life, some manner of trust must start to grow. But was there affection involved? Was he your friend? Friend? I had a crush on him. Yes, I really thought of Ortega as a friend. He was at least the closest thing I had to him. Never let it get that far. Ha ha! I fucking knew it. I vaguely remember. But yeah, it definitely feels fitting. Ortega's a person who makes stupid mistakes. Obviously, it's like makes a lot of sense. Like, oh yeah, no, tell me about it. It's like a lot of interactions of Ortega go like that, where it's like, oh, I'm doing something. It's like, yep, I agree. Stupid, stupid. Why am I agreeing? You still keep doing the thing. Friend, I had a crush on him. He was your first crush, but as you loved him, that's not something you feel comfortable admitting to, especially not now. That's why I never told him of my feelings. Kissing someone's probably what happens if you're like being a flirt with him in the very beginning one. But like, you know, openness. I never told him my feelings. Meeting him again has only brought home how close you once were, how rarely you dared to let people in. Acquaintances, yes, but people who saw your face, who knew your name and spoke it like it mattered, that was a lot rarer. You hadn't dared to risk your friendship by pretending that it could ever be anything more. So you had shoved your feelings down and tried to pretend that they never existed. And Ortega had been there for you at every twist and turn until, yes, until everything changed. You surfed the web, thinking back. Click by click, you browse through the fan sites, and a mosaic of charges face stares back at you. The familiarity hits you like a right hook, bringing back feelings you'd rather not feel. Of course, when he said being productive, what they meant was I'm gonna start cyber stalking my old crush again. There is the grin that first broke through your barriers, wide and careless, even when tempered by that mustache. You can't decide whether it looks ridiculous or not. For a moment, you muse on what it would feel like kissing him now, but you quickly squash that thought and return to looking critically at the offending facial hair. It makes him look older, you think, more mature, tired, If he had worn a mask, he could have hidden the more obvious marks of age, but he has always been public. His father had been a high-ranking military officer before he died, most likely the reason why Ortega had the option of becoming one of the enhanced in the first place after his accident. His mother had survived, and for a few years you had been a welcome visitor at their house. Now you don't even know if she's still alive. For a moment, you wonder whether she still lives at her old place, and what she would do if you picked up the phone and called her. But that's just another pipe dream, just like what Ortega represents. You didn't dare to do anything about your feelings back then, and nothing has changed. In fact, it would be even more impossible now. What's your game, old man? You whisper to the screen, flipping through reports of his recent career as a member of the Rangers. Somewhere in that myriad of data points are answers, but instead you find yourself distracted by the link on the page that leads to the former associates and the results, and as a result, to yourself. No, you decide, as you watch your own masked face as of 9 years ago, staring back from the screen. This is not you anymore. This is Sidestep, your old identity. You remember the day that picture was taken? You were still out of breath and covered in debris after the nanosurge hit the coastline. You were talking to someone off screen. Sunstream, if you remember correctly. She quit the Rangers half a year later, and you never learned why. Not that you asked. You never did. Still, it's an odd feeling, looking at yourself. Did you really used to be that open? That happy? Your hood is pulled back, and your full face mask rolled up just enough so that you can have a well-deserved cigarette because you had just saved the day. And else, did you really used to be in such good shape? With the hooded coat unbuttoned, the armored skin suit showing off what it felt like being 20. You remember feeling self-conscious and ashamed when people took pictures back then. But looking at your former self, you wonder if you had what you had to be ashamed of. Existing, probably. I never liked people looking at me. Not ashamed, afraid to be recognized. Hmm. While afraid to be recognized is kind of the colder and more logical answer. In all frankness, John Doe is definitely at least sort of ashamed. At least the way I'm conceptualizing them. Existing, probably. Hmm. Existing, probably. Back then, you weren't angry enough to stop caring. There was still that soft hurt spot inside of you that wondered if what you were doing was right, if you really deserved to be happy, to have a life, to have friends. Fake it till you make it had really worked for you. Or maybe they had finally pushed you too far. Maybe you realized that if you wanted something from life, you had to take it. You're not ashamed anymore. What will your new armor look like? You haven't decided yet, but you need to settle on something soon. Things like this are important. Your sidestep suit had its own personal symbolism in the geometric patterns of varying shades of gray, in the electric blue, the contrasting piping and patches. There was practicality as well. The fitted coat covering your skin suit was armored enough to stop most bullets, and the full face mask fil- to help to filter gas and provide you with low light vision as well as hiding your identity. Fat lot of good that had done you in the end. Still, I miss those days. I got too comfortable and stopped hiding. I was too trusting. These people were not my friends. I don't think he can. I don't think they can blame the people. Ortega's one of those people. Got too comfortable and stopped hiding. This was a trap you fell into. A comfortable routine. Feeling safe enough that you could reveal a little of yourself. Was that how they found you? Facial recognition software, marking a picture like this, their exposed mouth a possible match. Had you really thought they might have stopped looking for you? Let you go? Pains you to admit you probably had. That you probably had. You were a hero. You were doing good work. That should count for something, right? The cynical laugh catches you by surprise. How long has it been since you did that? Laugh. It is a night of old memories, to be sure. However, the important question is whether you can still act the hero or not. Not only do you need to go into Lady Argent's head and aim her suspicions in the right direction, you also need to feel like someone completely different. Somebody completely different. Surf the edges of her frustration at being turned into a puppet and direct her anger at a suitable target. You know who to pick, of course. It's not like there are many suitable telepaths you could blame this on. Luckily, one has been missing for the past few months, and the papers have run away with the story. Going under the hero named Locust, she is a young alpha-level telepath, which is a lot rarer than you'd imagine. Still, she is a cute young girl who has gone missing. The media, since she is a cute young girl who has gone missing, the media has been all over the case. So you have enough ammunition to push Lady Argent in the right direction. The perfect patsy, if you can pull it off. It's not like this is a lie that needs to hold up forever. All you need is a few weeks for Dr. Mortem to finish, and then it won't matter. Turning off your computer, you reluctantly look over in the direction of your bed. Past being dragged back into the light, you know it's going to be a bad night. Part of you wishes to escape into Yasmin, but you've been running yourself pretty ragged lately. You need the rest. Real rest. It's just a dream. They can't hurt you. Head buried in the pillow, you lose yourself to oblivion. Next chapter. And yeah, as we've got some pretty suitable stopping point, I feel, at the end of the second or the third chapter. Think this is a fitting time to wind down for now. Uh, yeah, we'll continue later. Next time I come up. And yeah, actually, I'm gonna finish streaming for finish this one for at least. I don't know. Well, probably not gonna go into the second one right after this, but don't worry, this isn't going half. Anyway, bye for now.